Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Rice Band this evening. I'm joined by
Mark, Matt, Steve.
and we just finished playing Paranormal Detectives, which is a game in which one person, in this case Matt, was the ghost, and he gets given this kind of secret scenario card. So none of us actually gets to see this, but this tells him effectively how the person died. So one person has died, in fact it's Matt who's died, and he's a ghost trying to communicate to us how he's died. And now this actually tells him the scenario. So in this case, he was spending a night in a hotel, he was sleepwalking with his mistress and sort of fell out the window and died effectively. But we're trying to guess the 5 key ingredients here, which is who was it who led to his death, why did he die, where was he, how did he die, and what was the weapon. So if he fell off the cliff, then I guess the ground is the weapon if you like. But yeah, here we go. So it was his lover or mistress who caused him to die because it was too hot, and she opened the door and he walked out at the hotel and fell to his death on the rocks. So that's what we're all trying to guess. Now, how do we figure out what those things are? So Matt would secretly have that information. Well, you have these cards, and there's lots of different cards, and not everyone has the same cards, but on your turn you're going to play one of these cards. So for example, I could play the tarot cards thing, where I would ask a question. So I might ask Matt, where was he when he died? And so I kind of put this on, which indicates that he has to use tarot cards, and the tarot cards, he has a set of these tarot cards, and he can do all kinds of things with them. He can arrange them in different ways, but he decides, it looks like there's a person lying down here at the bottom of a tower, like a big building, and the moon makes you think it's night. So based on that information, I was like, okay, that tells me something about the crime, if you like. And you can write notes sort of on the sheet according to what you think you've learnt, and if you think you know where it is, obviously you'd fill it in the appropriate place. But there's a bunch of different kinds of cards. So you could also do the ghost as a pantomime for 3 seconds. So I might say, how did you die? And Matt does a pantomime. So, can you figure out what everything from there? Steve, I think I had a few more cards. Have you got a question, Steve?
There's a talking board, so what sort of building were you in?
On this is like a sort of Ouija board, so Matt sticks the things out. The first letter of the kind of building he's in is this one of those 3 at least. The second one is an O, an E, or an A. It's a T here, or an S, or an N. And I think he's trying to spell hotel, but obviously if you don't know that it's H-O-T-E-L, then it's quite difficult potentially on the combination to figure out what it is. Other things, we have this ghost meter here. You can hand in the ghost meter card, and he arranges things on these different scales. So you've got kind of light to heavy, sorry, that's small to large, light to heavy. The next one is slow to fast, good to bad at that end, quiet to loud, cold to hot. What's this one at the end? Young to old, and then colour potentially as well. So he arranges the sliders. Can we just see the sliders quickly? Depending on what question you've asked, it might be, it's dark, and are we saying it's very hot? Did you have any other cards there, Steve? That we
Ghost scream. How upset was the person with you when you died?
And how? Oh, this is the noise, isn't it?
So Matt makes a single noise, a single scream, or points.
So the person he was with was upset, so probably didn't kill him on purpose if they resulted in his death somehow. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a bunch of these different kinds of cards that are going to somehow give you an indication according to the question that you ask. You kind of try and fill out the information, and at the end of your go, you can have a guess. You can only have 2 guesses though in the whole game, and effectively, if you don't get all 5 things right, the ghost will write a number here, which is how many things you got right. And at the end of the game, if no one got the whole lot right, then whoever got the highest number first, if you like, is the winner. What do we think?
It's okay. Probably not my kind of game. I'm not very good at anagrams and things like that, but it's quite fun because you're getting Matt to do crazy, silly things, and have a good time.
Matt?
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of light party game. You're doing silly things, making silly noises, trying to communicate using strings and things. I think it has a slight issue if you're bothered about who wins, because whoever's going later in the turn is going to get to see everyone else's questions and answers, and possibly their guesses before they have to make theirs, so they maybe have a bit more information. So I think in terms of kind of fairness of the game, it lacks a little bit, but it's not really that kind of game. It's more of a just enjoying the process, and I think it's really good at that.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, it's a party game, it's a light party game, and I do like my party games. Not a massive fan of this one necessarily. It is fun to make the person there do daft things. and the way you can ask the questions and the way you've got to communicate, you can just make him be really stupid. And if he's up for the gab, which he was in this game, he can, obviously he did actually do that mime where he kind of fell over. As 2 issues for me, there's a bit of downtime, and like on my turn, I'm waiting. I'm like, oh, come on, someone please just ask where he was. Someone ask where he was. Someone, when it gets to me, I want to ask where he was, but I haven't really got a good way that he can communicate with me doing so, or whatever the question might be. And my second gripe is that the card has a very sort of stringent requirement of what you need to say to get the point. You're trying to score out of 5, and if they drowned because of a jellyfish attacked them in the water, is the weapon drowning because of water, or was it the jellyfish that caused them? Like, what do you say to get to that mark? And sometimes you think you might have an idea of what it is.
Aurora?
So, as I've said previously, it's a good icebreaker, I think, in parties like that. It is very story intensive, and you do need quite a good imagination to play, so it's not something that I enjoy just because I don't really find that I'm quite imaginative, so I'd probably pass on this one. Yeah.
Okay. Thomas?
I really enjoy this game. Definitely the more people the better, especially if you have a great ghost. And there's just one thing, the ambiguity of certain questions or certain answers can really mislead you. Like at one point I was sure that he was doing the samba on the balcony and that's why he fell off, but it turns out that it was due to the heating and he was a sleepwalker. But a really fun game. 7 out of 10. Definitely play it again.
So your rating was?
7 out of 10.
7, okay.
5.
Some people like this, but 5.5 for me.
I'd give it a 6.
Yeah, 6.
Okay. Yeah, I'd very much agree with the comments. The downtime is a bit of an issue. The ambiguity with the particular scenarios and how did they actually die and what was caused the death and all that is a bit of an issue. As long as you don't take it too seriously though, and as you play it more like a party game than a kind of competitive deduction game, then I think it does the job very well. I'd be on a 6 out of 10 with the right group. Alright, thanks for watching. That was Paranormal Detectives.